Hare Krishna, dear devotees. I would like to welcome you all to His Holiness Chandramauli Maharaj's daily online class. Thank you all for joining today. I welcome you all. Thank you. My humble obeisances to you all. Glories to Prabhupada. Hare Krishna Maharaj. My humble obeisances to you all. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. So Maharaj, we shall be continuing with Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, 5, verse number 10. I shall share my screen. Just a minute. Okay.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narita Tavatats-chapi Yatamam Prabhavishibo Avigyaya Paramata Etavatvam Yatohime. Whatever you have spoken about me is not false, because unless and until one is aware of the personality of Godhead, who is the ultimate truth beyond me, one is sure to be illusioned by observing my powerful activities. A frog in a well logic illustrates that a frog residing in the atmosphere and boundary of a well cannot imagine the length and breadth of a gigantic ocean. Such a frog, when informed of the gigantic length and breadth of the ocean, first of all, does not believe there is such an ocean. And if someone assures him that factually there is such a thing, then frog then begins to measure it by imagination, by means of pumping his belly as far as possible, with the result that the tiny abdomen of the frog bursts and the poor frog dies without any experience of the actual ocean. Similarly, the materialist scientists also want to challenge the inconceivable potency of the Lord by measuring him with their frog-like brains and their scientific achievements. But at the end, they simply die unsuccessfully like the frog. Sometimes a material, powerful man is accepted as God or an incarnation of God without any knowledge of the factual God. Such a material assessment may be gradually extended. And the attempt may reach to the highest limit of Brahmaji, who was the topmost living being within the universe, and have a duration of life unimaginable to the material scientists. As we get information from the most authentic book of knowledge, the Bhagavad Gita, from 8:17, Brahmaji one day and night is calculated to see hundreds and thousands of years on our planet. This long duration of life may not be believed by the frog in the well, but persons who have a realization of the truth mentioned in the Gita accept the existence of a great personality who creates the variegatedness of the complete universe. It is understood from the revealed scriptures that the Brahmaji of this universe is younger than all the other Brahmins in charge of many, many universes beyond this. But none of them can be equal to the personality of Godhead. Naradaji is one of the liberated souls, and after his liberation, he was known as Narada. Otherwise, before his liberation, he was simply a son of a maidservant. The question may be asked why Naraji was not aware of the Supreme Lord and why he misconceived Brahmaji to be the Supreme Lord, although factually he was not. A liberated soul is never bewildered by such a mistaken idea. So why did Narada ask all those questions just like an ordinary man with the forefront of knowledge? There was such bewilderment in Arjuna also, although he is eternally the associated of the Lord. Come on, move that thing up, will you? Okay, there you go. Such bewilderment in Arjuna or in Narada takes place by the will of the Lord, so that others, non-believers, may realize that the real truth and knowledge of the Lord. The doubt arising in the mind of Narada about Brahmaji's becoming the all-powerful is a lesson for the frogs in the well, that they may not be bewildered by the misconceiving the identity of the personality of Godhead, even by comparison to a personality like Brahma. So what to speak of ordinary men who falsely pose themselves as God or an incarnation of God? The Supreme Lord is always the Supreme, and as we have tried to establish many times in these purports, no living being up to the standard of Brahma can claim to be one with the Lord. One should not be misled when people worship a great man as God after his death as a matter of hero worship. There are many great kings like Lord Ramachandra, the king of Ayodhya, but none of them are mentioned as God in the revealed scriptures. To be a good king is not necessarily the qualification of being Lord Ram, but to be the great personality like Krishna is the qualification for being the personality of Godhead. If we scrutinize the character who took part in the battle of Kurukshetra, we find that Maharaja Yudhisthira was no less a pious king than Lord Ramachandra. And by character study, Maharaja Yudhisthira was a better moralist than Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna asked Maharaja Yudhisthira to lie, but Maharaja Yudhisthira protested. But that doesn't mean that Maharaja Yudhisthira could be equal to Lord Ramachandra or Lord Krishna. The great authorities have estimated Maharaja Yudhisthira to be a pious man, but they've accepted Lord Rama or Krishna as the personality of Godhead. The Lord is therefore a different identity in all circumstances, and no idea of anthropomorphism can be applied to him. The Lord is always the Lord, and a common living being can never be equal to him. Om Gyan Timidandasya Gina Jana Salakaya Chaksun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudavani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavari Pasyatya De Satarni Vanchakalpa Tarubhischa Kripa Sindhu Pacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaho Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So stop sharing and go back to, yeah. Okay. So what we see here is quite commonplace amongst the population in the world. Everyone has got some idea of God or some understanding what is God or who is God or how great he is. And there have been books written about that also. But if you really want to know, you have to go to that authority that knows, and that is Krishna himself. He speaks about himself in the Bhagavad Gita, and therefore we get a clear understanding, at least to a certain degree, of his transcendental position, or his position above everything material, and his connection with everything material, and how everything material is simply an expansion of his energy, which is very insignificant in terms of his actual existence. They say God is great, but when you say God is great, you can't really understand anything by that statement. When you say someone is great, you have to make a comparative analogy or analysis in order to understand greatness in relationship. So when we try to make an analogy or analysis of a comparison with God, there's nothing that can match that, because his greatness is so vast and so far beyond the ability for one to understand. One can only understand by two means, or one means, which leads to the result is one has to hear about the greatness of God from Krishna himself, or by those pure devotees who are fully absorbed in devotional service to Krishna, who also know him. Just like Arjuna, he spoke about the greatness of Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Param Brahma, Param Dharma, Pavitram Idam Uttamam. So you are the supreme God, you are eternal, you are the source of all existence, uh, you are the original personality within the existence. So much description is given about the Lord in words. But even the Upanishads, that's mentioned in the very end of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's called the Shrutis. The Shrutis are the Upanishads, and they're speaking, saying that no words can describe God because words are limited and God is unlimited. And the meanings of words are also limited because they describe up to a certain point. But yet we use word in order to describe God, to get an indication how much we don't know about the reality of God. But when Krishna speaks about himself, it becomes a lot more clearer about what is his position and what is his power. This universe that we live in is about 4 billion miles in circumference. That means 4 billion miles in all directions. And Brahma, he is in charge of the universe. He is the deputed son of the Lord who manages the universe. So he has a big post. And this particular universe, in comparison to other universes, because it is explained that there's koti. The word koti is used meaning millions. There are millions of universes, of which the one we are inhabiting is just one of them. It has so many planets. And even the scientists can't give you a clear or correct explanation or counting of how many planets within their limited scope of machines. They've come up with about 9 or 10 planets. That's about all. But there's much more than that. As Srila Prabhupada said, many of the stars in the sky that you see, which are way beyond the planets that are seen by the scientists through their various machines, are also planets. And sometimes you see the sky is so clustered with stars. Each one of them is a planet. It's not just some decoration on the sky so you can have some light up there. There actually is planets. And this is mentioned also in this scriptures. And so this universe, which is impossible to describe or understand in terms of how unfathomable it is, it's just one of the smallest of all universes. And there are many universes that are bigger and bigger, and each has a Brahman. There's a story where Lord Brahma from this universe went to see Lord Krishna in Dwarka. He came to the door where Krishna was staying, and then he made some sound that he was there. And Krishna sent out his servant and asked, well, who's at the door? And the servant came back and said, Lord Brahma is there. He would like to be with you, speak with you. And Krishna said, well, which Lord Brahma is he? And then the servant went back and said to the Lord Brahma, the Lord wants to know, which Brahma are you? And Brahma got bewildered when he heard that. He said, well, I'm Brahma. What do you mean, which one? I'm Brahma. And then he said, well, I am the four-headed Brahma. And then I came back to Krishna, and Krishna welcomed him. And then when they were talking, he asked the Lord, well, why did you ask which Brahma I am? Because, as far as I know, I'm Brahma. The Lord then used his mystic power to bring all of the Brahmas from all of the universes in. And there were Brahmins with 8 heads, 12 heads, 100 heads, 1,000 heads, 10,000 heads, 1,000,000 heads, and it was unlimited. That some of the universes are so big, you can't even describe in terms of numbers how big they are. And so they all paid their obeisances to the Supreme Lord when he called them, and the sound of their helmets hitting the ground when they paid their obeisances was so tumultuous, it was echoing throughout the entire creation. So Brahma understood how insignificant he was in comparison to other Brahmas who are managing other universes much bigger than he is. So you might say, well, yeah, this is nice. It's some nice eulogy, some nice mythology. No, it's not. Because if you understand the nature of the absolute, you understand it's inconceivable. Inconceivable in the sense is that we have a tendency to compare and understand things in relationship to what we know. And people with a big brain like to conjecture and make some statement based on their imaginations about what is beyond. But no one can understand. No one can understand. So when we hear these things, just like we have the example of one particular story that illustrates this point. One Brahmana, no, actually the one devotee, he was walking along, and no, it wasn't. No, I'm sorry, it was Narada Muni. It was Narada Muni. One Brahmana, he saw Narada Muni, and he said, Brahma, he said to Narada, I know you are an associate of Lord Narayan. Can you meet Narayan and ask him, when will I attain liberation? And Narada was really impressed by this Brahmana. He seemed to be such a saintly Brahmana. So Narada said, fine. And he was walking along. He came to a cobbler. Cobbler saw Narada, paid his obeisances, was very happy, received Narada, and asked the same question. Oh, Narada, I know you go to Vaikuntha to meet Narayan. Please, when you go, ask him, when will I be liberated? So Narada leaves. He goes to Vaikuntha. He meets Lord Narayan. He's talking. Then he remembers the request of these two personalities, and he asks Lord Narayan. Lord Narayan said, well, with that Brahmana, it'll be many, many lifetimes before he receives moksha, or liberation. And Narada was a little surprised, thinking that this Brahmana was a great soul. And then he asked about the cobbler. He said, that cobbler, he will come back to me in this life. Narada was amazed because this was a simple cobbler. Didn't show any real signs of great devotion, but he was humble. And then after some time, Narada came back to that area, He met the Brahmin again. The Brahmin was so happy, respected Narada, offered obeisances, and he asked. Narada said yes. Oh, I forgot one thing. Yeah. When when Lord Narayan was speaking to Narada, Narada says, "Well, how will they know that I was actually with you? Can you give me some evidence?" And Lord Narayan said, "Yes. You can tell them when you met me, I was threading an elephant through an eye of a needle. I was threading an elephant through an eye of a needle." And then Narada's a little surprised, but he accepted it. After meeting the Brahmana asked, "Oh, Narada, did you ask?" "Oh, yes." "What did he say?" "Well, he said that he was unhappy to deliver the message, but he said, it'll be many, many lives before you receive moksha liberation." Brahmana was shocked and at the same time a little bit angry. And he said, "Well, maybe you didn't see Narayan. What was he doing?" "Well, he was threading an elephant through the eye of a needle." And the Brahmin started to laugh. "Just see, Narada. You are making up stories." Narada left. And then after some time, he meets the cobbler. And then the cobbler, "Oh, Narada, you're here," and welcomes him, gives him so many nice words, offers his obeisances. And he said, "Did you see Lord Narayan?" "Yes." "Oh, what did he say?" He said, "Well, in this life, you'll be liberated. This will be your last life." And the cobbler was very happy. But then he said to Narada, "What was my Lord doing?" He said, "Well, he was threading an elephant through an eye of a needle." And the cobbler said, "Oh, my Lord, he's so wonderful." And Narada said, "You believe that?" "Oh, yes." "How can you believe that?" "Well, just see, here's a banyan tree. And in this banyan tree, there is many, many branches, and there are also fruit on the banyan tree. And in those fruit, there are many, many seeds. And each seed is another tree. So if he can put a tree inside of a seed and many trees inside of the seed, then for him, for God to thread an elephant through the eye of a needle, oh, he's so wonderful. Then Narada knew, yes, this man has complete faith in the Lord and devotion. So yeah, there's an example how we see so many seeds in the fruit. And many of the seeds are potential trees. When they hit the ground and become germinized and fertilized through the soil, they grow into another big tree. So even the logic is there. But God, if you study nature, or if you at least observe nature, you can see there's miracles happening at every moment, even within nature. But these are so small. When Arjuna was asking Krishna about his opulence, the Lord was comparing himself to many of the powerful things in this world. But after doing that and stating so many different items which he aligns himself with in order to show that he is the greatest in all categories, he said, "But what is the use of all this detailed knowledge? With this tiny spark of my splendor, I support and pervade this entire universe." God is so powerful that we can't even conceive of his power. So therefore, we simply accept it. And we can also realize it, just like the cobbler realized it, but even more directly through the process of bhakti. Bhakti reveals Krishna. Bhakti elevates our consciousness where we can understand the inconceivable nature of the Lord through our devotion. and not simply through philosophical speculation or even reading books. When we read the scriptures, they give us the clear understanding, but it remains theoretical. It only becomes realized through the process of application of the knowledge in devotional service. Then Krishna reveals himself to his devotee according to the devotee's level of devotion. He reveals who he is, his opulences, the magnitude of his existence, and so many other aspects, his qualities. And when we come to the highest level of pure devotional service, even while being in this particular body in this world, if one has reached the level of Ananya Bhakti means that bhakti that is the highest of all bhakti, then one can enter into the pastimes of the Lord, even while in this material world. How is it understood that the Goswamis were able to write so many books describing the Leelas of the Lord in the spiritual world? Because they had reached that level where in trance of meditation, they would actually enter into these pastimes and see the Lord in his pastimes and also see themselves in many of these same pastimes. So this is bhakti. It goes way beyond our level of understanding. And it reveals, at least to some degree, because Krishna cannot be known in full. One can know Krishna at least to the point where one develops full love and devotion to Krishna. But no one can know, even Krishna says he can't even know himself because the nature of spirit is that it's always expanding. And therefore, God is becoming greater as his existence continues, becomes greater and greater and greater. Whereas material life reaches a certain level of development and then it goes down. It goes down. A person lives their life, grows up, goes through the early age, teenage, and then adolescent, and teenage. Finally, they're in their 30s or 40s, and they reach certain levels of what we say health and development. But then after some time, the body starts to dwindle and gradually it deteriorates, and then so many things come, and then gradually it disappears. So material life can never expand beyond a certain level, but spirit is unlimitedly expansive, and that applies to all aspects. So how much can we know about Krishna? As much as we are able to purify our consciousness, and as much as Krishna wants to reveal himself to that devotee. Both of those qualifications bring about an understanding of Krishna. When we get to a certain level of realizing Krishna, then we realize our position in relationship to everything. And then we look and we think, what am I doing in this material world? What am I doing here? It's just so, how did I get here? I must be crazy for thinking that this place has any value. And then when you get to that level, then you start to think, boy, let me dive deeper into devotional service and come to the point of qualifying myself to go back home, back to God, to get out of this, the escape route, the opening up the gates to the realm of transcendental, eternal knowledge, bliss, and association with the Supreme Lord, which is our birthright. We have nothing to do with this material world yet. Because we have a material body, we connect things to us based on the body. That's all. Our friends, family members, activities, everything is based on the body. So when we don't have a body, there's no connection. But when we free ourselves from the material body, then we can dwell within the spiritual body. And then our connection is in the reality of our existence. That's in the spiritual world, not here. So Therefore, the greatness of God is also an, what is it, a subject matter for devotees to try and understand. Of course, we can never understand, but trying to understand is one of the principles of bhakti. I will try to know as much as we can about Krishna, as much as we can about Krishna. And Prabhupada said that that devotee is eager to know more and more about Krishna. And that increases the devotee's attachment to Krishna, which brings about greater devotion to Krishna. And ultimately, that devotion turns into the natural relationship that the soul has with Krishna in the spiritual world. So this is the beauty of bhakti. It's way beyond the mind, the senses, intelligence, and even the imagination. But you have a whole group of, you know, frog-like people in this material world who think they can measure God or become God, and all they do is burst, like Prabhupada says, the frog in the well. They die without proper knowledge, wasting their time. Instead of trying to serve the Lord, they're trying to measure the Lord by their tiny frog-like brain. And they simply waste time, and they bewilder others by giving false information based on their false endeavors to understand God. So we say God is great, but that doesn't tell you anything. If you read the scriptures, you get an understanding of the greatness of God. And if you become fully purified, then Krishna will reveal himself in so many different ways to the devotee. And that revelation makes one at least qualified to go back home, back to Godhead. Okay, we can stop there. Of course, maybe some of us don't want to go back to Godhead. We like it here. What will I do with my dog? Oh, he's so nice. He doesn't even pass stool in the house. He's so nice. Or or you know, my mother, my grandmother, she loves me so much. How can I live without her? Well, preach to her and bring her back with you to the spiritual world. Then you can meet your grandmother in the actuality of who she is. Not some old lady whose body is deteriorating, but a pure spirit soul who is effulgent. Then you can meet your grandmother or anybody else. Prabhupada said when we get back to the spiritual world, we'll be able to know each other and remember who we were in the material world. Oh, there's Uncle George. Yeah, there he is. He made it back. Wow. Hey George, you never look so good. You're effulgent. Before you were a grumpy old guy, you know. So the material identity is more like a Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse movie. That's all it is. So it's just a dream. The real reality is beyond this dreamlike existence. Anyway, we're stuck here, but we don't have to stay here.
Thank you, Maharaj, for this wonderful insight and a very strong message. Dear devotees, so I would like to, if you can, a humble request, if you can turn on your cameras, we can make the session more interactive and personal. You can ask your question by raising your hand, or you can put it in the chat window and I can read it on your behalf if you're not able to do so. Thank you. So Sridevi Mataji, you have your hands raised. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Dinanath. Dear Guru Maharaj, please.
Oh, you got frozen there. Unfreeze.
Okay, yes. Guess the internet connection there. So Maharaj, I have a question. I mean, it's just an we see because it's the book of the month of marathon, and we're going out every day on book distribution, and we met somebody yesterday from an Indian background, and they were quite hesitant to say, we're not religious, we're not religious, we're not religious, we don't want this, we're not religious. And we see this a lot more in people from the Indian subcontinent these days, where they kind of go back, not religious, not religious. Uh, what do you think, Maharaj, could be the core reason why that is happening? Because we are seeing the, I mean, at least
They're deep in material consciousness. That's all. Material consciousness is ignorance. That's all. That's all. They're ignorant.
Mm.
They don't know who they are. You should ask them the question: are you this body, or are you something else?
That's what I try to come back with a comeback line saying, hey, these books are not religious at all. They're leading on the spiritual level. You have an Indian body in this birth. You don't know which body you're going to go next. So then he kind of stopped and listened. But you see this a lot from the Indian background community, at least.
Yeah, yeah, because they think, oh, religion has ruined India, therefore now we need technology. Prabhupada talks about that.
Yes. And
Ignorance is everywhere. Comes out in different ways. Therefore, we have to take the words of those who actually know, that is Krishna and his pure devotee. Then you can understand what is truth and what is not truth.
Maharaj, that is so important because you see, I mean, like India, every day or every week there is a new god, and everybody, the need to understand the Shastra, the need to establish the authority of the Shastra and the scriptures is so important. To know, like the Prabhupada says in the purpose that we need to know, and as you mentioned, that we need to know from the right source.
Yeah. Sri Devi, go ahead.
I'm so sorry, Guru Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances again. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I was thinking, Guru Maharaj, as you were saying about the importance of really diving deep. And when you said that Ananya Bhakti is the only point at which we actually qualify to re-enter the spiritual world, that is a very high state of devotion, much beyond Nishtha, Ruchi, Ashakti, and on and on and on until we reach Krishna Prem. So that calls for very diligent, careful, daily application of the process, constantly trying to see how we can improve and not being like complacent, like frog in the well. Oh, I'm good. I have my prasadam, I have my deities, I have my seva, and I'm good. But
Yeah, the point is, when you get to a certain level of realization of God, it becomes joyful. When you get to that level, which is not even the highest level, then that joy and that experience perpetuates your activities in devotional service. And then it becomes natural. Up until you get to that stage, it's rules, regulations, and different types of activities that we perform. So when we get at least beyond Nishta into Ruchi, Ruchi is, what is that verse? Prasanatman nasoshati nakangshati sama sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhakti labhate pranan. One is joyful, not just intermittently, but continuously. That joyfulness is the soul's is awakening to its actual nature now. Then you don't have to think, oh, how hard it is to get to the top. You don't even care anymore. All you're doing is you're in the process. Before you're swimming against the stream, now you actually in line with the stream, and the stream is carrying you, and it becomes easier and more natural. So we'll have to get to that point where it's joyful, and that is the state of ruchi. That's all. And that's not even the highest stage. That's only the sixth stage, I think, out of 9.
Yeah.
No, it's the fifth stage, actually. Yeah. No,
Okay.
sixth. Sixth, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you're trying to project how you think now into how it's going to be later, it's just useless.
Okay. Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Amritanam Mataji, please go ahead and ask your question.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances and glories to Srila Prabhupada. Guru Maharaj, if a person is pious but ungrateful, then is the piety, the piety is not helping them to be grateful. How can that the person stop to reach the God if still the person is pious and not grateful?
Well, we're not interested in piety. Piety is sometimes a qualification to understand bhakti, but it's not bhakti itself, piety. Prabhupada said, pious and impious, it's all impious because it's all material. So we're not interested in piety. We're interested in bhakti. Piety is an element of the mode of goodness. Bhakti is transcendental to all of the three modes. A person who is within devotion, they're grateful generally because they're tasting the happiness of Krishna consciousness. But a person who is pious, they might be thinking, well, I need this, I deserve this, because I'm a nice person. So it could also be selfish. Prabhupada was talking about the mode of goodness today. He was saying people have good, they think, oh, I'm austere, I'm generous, I'm simple, so many things. Therefore, they develop this pride based on their so-called material goodness qualities. The devotee is without pride because they give all credit to Krishna and to the spiritual master and to the process of bhakti and to the association of devotees. So piety, we don't really get into that because there's so many different classifications of piety.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj, for that clarification. Because I always thought that a pious person is more likely to get sukruti, which can lead them to devotional service.
Yeah, that may be there, but it also may be something they want to increase their material life also.
Thank you for the clarification.
That'll come up in our discussion in France. The two kinds of householders: the pious householder and the devotee householder. What is the difference?
Thank you.
Right. We have 10 more minutes before I have to depart.
Yes.
No.
I just heard this in Kurmagram, Guru Maharaj, when I was discussing something with the devotees. And one devotee shared with me, he said, my Guru Maharaj says, I'm here to smash your spiritual material life and drag you to spiritual life. And he said, after that, I just had to give up my job. I had to give up everything and come here. And I'm so happy now that my Guru Maharaj smashed my material life. So it's like, oh my God, I lost my job. I lost this, I lost that. But in return, he got spiritual life. So he was very grateful actually when, it happened. So I just wanted to share that.
Okay. There are many stories like that. When persons make advancement, they see the difference between the garbage or the difference between crow-like existence and swan-like existence. Crows chase after the garbage of this material world. The swans go to nice, serene, beautiful places where there are clear lakes. Difference, yeah. Jyotirmaya.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam. All praise to Srila Prabhupada, all praise to you. Maharaj, I have a doubt about Bhakti Shastri course. ISKCON Bhubaneswar organized Bhakti Shastri course. Can I register? And
You're asking whether you can register or not?
yes, Maharaj, can I register
I guess so.
in Bhakti Shastri course?
I guess so. I don't know. That's a material concern. But yeah, just investigate and find out.
Bhakti Shastri course जो Maharaj
Yeah, you can. I mean, no one is not allowed to go to register for these. You can do these things. That's not a problem. You just have to go through the process of registration. That's all.
Yes, Maharaj.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, so we stop here.
There's no more questions. We
Oh,
have
we
one.
got Revati. Okay.
Mataji. We can take last question from her if that's okay. Yes, Mataji, go ahead.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Lord Prabhupada. Thank you, Guru Maharaj, for the very nice class. So I have a question. Like you have mentioned, like there are millions of universes. So in those millions of universes, also we have like a nature, like same nature, same kind of living entities, or
No, they're all different. It's like in this world, you got people, you got living entities that live in the ocean. They're called fish. They're different than you. That's a different atmosphere. You got living entities that live in the air. They're different than you. So there's varieties even on this planet of living entities in different atmospheres. So these different planets have different atmospheres with different kinds of living beings. Just for instance, on the sun, there are living entities on the sun, but their bodies are made of fire. So we can't live on the sun because our bodies would burn up. But these living entities that live on the sun, their bodies are of the same nature as the atmosphere. So then if you go throughout the universe, it's like that.
so Guru Maharaj, soul travels to these different universes based on the karma activities.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
Karma pushes you, karma dive in the train according to your karma. You take birth on a particular planet, particular mother and father, particular material circumstance.
So it's very important for us to do bhakti so we can be liberated from this.
Bhakti to get out of these cycles of birth and death, which are all, no matter, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, from the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery, wherein repeated birth and death take place. Even Lord Brahma has to give up his body after some time. So yeah, anywhere in the material world, there is temporality, and therefore the soul has to again transmigrate. So that is not the goal for a devotee. Devotee is not looking for a better material situation, because they know every material situation contains birth, death, disease, old age, and different types of sufferings. Devotee knows that the spiritual world is their actual home. So they have to keep your mind focused on the goal. And if you keep your mind focused on the goal, even if you don't make it in this life, Krishna says, Suchinam Simatam Gehe Yoga Brasta Pratayaje. You'll come back again in a good situation where you picked up in your last life and you continue making progress towards the goal. And so go for the ultimate goal, and then you can make it in this life if you become attached to three things: chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, associating and serving Vaishnavas, and let's see, what is the other one? Yeah, and reading and understanding Srimad Bhagavatam. Just do these three things and you got everything.
Yes, Gurumash. Thank you, Gurumash. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much. Sorry I have to leave, but there is an evening program that starts now, and that's part of my sadhana, so I have to go. So we'll see you tomorrow for a continuation of Srimad Bhagavatam.
Thank you very much for today's class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Hare
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Hare
So,
Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Gurudev.